This show is sponsored by Audible. Fans of It Matters can get a 30-day free trial of Audible. Stay tuned for details. Hello, and welcome to It Matters How We Treat One Another, the social science show. I'm your host, Matthew David Vasco. If you subscribe to this show on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform, then thank you. We are grateful for each and every one of our subscribers. We are also thankful for our patrons on Patreon. Your support helps to make this episode possible. If you've been with our show since the beginning, then you might remember that in the first season, we revealed that it is actually good for us, both mentally and physically, to be accepting of others. If that episode convinced you to be more accepting of others, now you might still be wondering, but how do I go about actually being more accepting of others? Are there any other tools that can help me do this? Well, the answer is yes, there are tools and techniques that lead to greater acceptance, and I'm going to share them with you shortly. But first, our inspiring news. If inspiring things are happening in your neck of the woods, then please send us a direct message on one of our social media accounts and let us know. You can find us by our show name on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. This time, instead of doing an inspiring news story, I'm going to try something new. I call it a dose of inspiration, and it comes to you directly from my imagination. It's a visualization exercise because, after all, if we can dream it, then we can do it. But first, we must dream it. So, close your eyes. Unless you're driving. Then, for goodness sake, keep your eyes on the road. Now, imagine a more united world. A world connected by peace and well-being for all. A world where compassion for those in need outweighs greed or hate. A happier world, one filled with people connected for the common good, where we can look past our differences and see a brighter future for everyone. This is the world of tomorrow, one not built upon technology or industry as much as built upon love. This is the world that is possible with the help of the love revolution. Yes, that's what our world needs. More than AI or self-driving cars, we need a love revolution. Imagine a world where love leads the way and compassion rules the day. We all have the capacity for great love for all people. We simply need to let love lead. Let us let go of hate. Let's let go of fear. Spread love. Show love. Be love. And together we will achieve a better tomorrow. Okay, now you can open your eyes. Again, if you know of inspiring things happening in your area, then please DM us on our socials and let us know. Thanks. Up next is our feature segment. But first, this show is sponsored by Audible. You probably already know that Audible is an outstanding source for audiobooks, but did you know that Audible is also an amazing resource for guided wellness? It's true, and fans of our show can get a free month of Audible Premium Plus just by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting the podcast page at matthewvasco.com. Again, that's a free month of Audible Premium Plus by clicking the link in our episode description or by visiting matthewvasco.com and clicking podcast. And now our feature segment. Hello, and welcome to our feature segment on how to be more accepting of others. I want to start off with something a little different, which is a visual aid for our YouTube watchers. And I'm going to describe the visual aid for our podcast listeners. So let's give this a try here. What I created was a visual of what I call the circles of acceptance of ourselves and others. At the center, in the center circle, is the self, because it's best to start by learning to accept yourself. Once you accept yourself, it makes it easier to accept others. And then as we go out from there, the next circle out is people I love the most. Then we have everyday people, which are the people that we see every day or most days, like our coworkers or classmates. Then we have extended family, those people that we may struggle to accept, who we see at holidays and special occasions. And then we have everyone else, all of the people in the world that we share this beautiful planet Earth with, which would be roughly 8 billion people right now. So, down in the corner, it says, start with accepting yourself and work your way out. I always say the most important people we should accept other than ourselves is the people we love the most, because accepting them does them a great deal of good. And if we aim to love them unconditionally, then uh, accepting them fully is a great way to do that, or part of that. And then off on the side, we have another circle with an X through it, and it says harm. And then under it, it says we shouldn't accept harm. So I kind of set harm aside and say, don't accept this. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So there's our visual aid for our YouTube viewers. Hopefully, I described it very well for our podcast listeners. And now I will drill down into the universe of the circles of acceptance and go into some detail about the tools of accepting ourselves and others. So let's start with self-acceptance. There is evidence to support that we do a better job of being accepting of others after we have learned to accept ourselves. This seems to be because when we ease up on ourselves and accept ourselves as we are, we also learn to grant grace to others as well. Think about it. If you're always hard on yourself and never cut yourself any slack, why would you think to do it for anyone else, right? So, the way to become more self-accepting is to practice something called self-compassion. There's a wise saying that we should talk to ourselves the way we would expect a good friend to talk to us. Would a good friend, for example, who truly cares about you, call you an idiot, for example? No, probably not, right? Hopefully not, unless they're joking. Then don't call yourself one, even in a joking way, because we tend to believe the things we say to ourselves. Self-compassion means being gentle with yourself. Pause and question the reality of your negative thoughts. I've always liked that expression. Question the reality of your negative thoughts about yourself. Are the negative thoughts you have about yourself even true? Reframe the things you say to yourself. Instead of saying, I failed, I'm a failure, say, everybody experiences setbacks. I'll try again tomorrow, right? We need to learn to go easy on ourselves. And then once we're going a little bit easier on ourselves, that encourages us to go a little bit easier on others as well. So be careful not to get caught in what they call the rumination trap, right? Switch up your thought pattern if you find yourself focusing on negative thoughts or self-sabotage. Get outside and go for a walk. I often say, change your position, change your disposition. When you move your body, you can't help but think about something different. Something I do is go for what I call mindfulness walks. Walk in nature and focus on what you see, hear, smell, feel, and touch, including the ground below your feet, right? You can feel the ground under your feet, the what you touch with your hands, right? Maybe a leaf or a small rock. I will sometimes pick up a stone and roll it between my fingers just to connect with nature in a different way. Take in the smells around you. Try to think about what you're seeing and the connection, the interconnectedness of nature. We are, after all, as human beings, part of nature. We can't escape it. So think about that as you walk around, just to kind of get outside of yourself and break maybe a negative thought pattern if you're stuck in a negative thought pattern. That's kind of what rumination is. If you're ruminating on a negative thing that happened or that you experienced or that you're feeling about yourself, a good way to snap out of that is to go for a walk or a mindfulness walk. Next, be careful not to compare yourself to others. When we compare ourselves to others, it can sometimes put us in a situation where we find ourselves lacking. Instead, run your own race, as they say. The only person you need to be better than is your past self. Finally, when it comes to self-acceptance, give some consideration to people you choose to spend your time around. Make sure that they are people who are good for your own self-acceptance. Are they supportive of you or are they critical of you? Sometimes the critical things other people say about us can become internalized if we're not careful. So be careful about the people you surround yourself with. Now, let's move on to accepting others. As I mentioned earlier, the people we should make the greatest effort to be accepting of is the people we love the most. These are the people who will benefit the most from our unconditional love and acceptance. Let's talk about the tools involved in becoming more accepting of others. If you've learned to accept yourself, then you've checked a big box off the list to begin with. Again, it's harder to accept others when we don't fully accept ourselves. Next, learn to practice empathy. Empathy is the practice of taking the perspective of the other person we are trying to empathize with. It's like trying to see the world through their eyes, or it's often said that it's like trying to walk a mile in their shoes, right? So empathy could also be called perspective taking. Why make an effort to empathize with others? Well, there's a French proverb which translates to understand everything is to forgive everything. I really like that one. To understand everything is to forgive everything. When we fully understand why a person did what they did or said what they said, then we are more likely to accept it and in turn accept them, or possibly to forgive them if they have hurt our feelings, which is part of acceptance, being forgiving. Now, you might be asking, but how can I become more empathetic, right? Because I'm saying be empathetic, but how do you be more empathetic? Well, as I mentioned, empathy is a matter of perspective taking. Try to see the situation from the other person's perspective. The first step to doing that is to listen deeply to the other person and to believe what they are telling you. Believe it or not, believing is part of really hearing someone. In my life, the most frequent barrier I see that people sometimes throw up in front of themselves to stop the process of empathy is denying that the person actually means the thing they're saying, or to sort of diminish it or downplay it. So, for example, if someone says, I got angry with you when you didn't call me because it made me feel like I wasn't very important to you. Okay, now the wrong reaction here is to think something like, "Oh, you're important to me." That's kind of dismissing their truth, right? Instead, think, I made you feel like you weren't important to me? Oh, I didn't realize it mattered that much to you, right? You're accepting what they said, or something to that effect, right? Don't deny the other person's reality. Instead, truly hear what they're saying and let it sink in. And sometimes the truth hurts, right? I mean, to truly hear someone and accept that you did something that hurt them, that can be hard to do. So turning off our empathy can be a sort of defense mechanism. We need to let our defenses down in order to let empathy happen. The next thing we can do to be more accepting of others is to challenge our own biases and assumptions. You can do this by not assuming the worst about the other person or by not assuming anything at all. For example, I've heard men say that women are, quote, too emotional. Well, that's not a very accepting way of thinking, especially if you're a man who is trying to be accepting of his wife or girlfriend and her feelings, right? You've got to let biases like that go. You have to accept the person for the person that they are. Probably the best way to challenge our biases is by getting to know all kinds of different people and really talking to them. The more we get to know people, the more our biases fall away and we learn to understand that everyone is a unique individual with their own set of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Another way to challenge our biases is by taking the time to consider biases that other people may have about us. Just as much as you are not at all like everyone who shares a similar identity to you, right? So too is everyone else not at all like everyone else who shares a similar identity to them. If you don't like being clumped in with other people who look like you or are similar to you in a lot of ways, then don't clump others in together either. It's just that simple. Challenge your biases by realizing that a lot of the biases we hold about other people simply don't hold up on the individual level, right? Stereotypes, biases, these things sometimes do more harm than actually help guide us in any meaningful way in our relationships with others. Another practice to help us become more accepting of others is compassion. Just as self compassion can help us become more accepting of ourselves, practicing compassion toward others can help us become more accepting of them. When we practice compassion for others, it makes us less critical and more caring. Imagine you are a school teacher and you see a student running in the hallway. Then they fall and scrape their knee. You could say, well, that's what you get for running in the hallway, and walk away. But that's not very compassionate. The compassionate response would be to go and check on the child and to give them first aid for their scraped knee. See the difference? You could help them, care for them, be kind to them, and then later, when they're feeling a little bit better, have a meaningful conversation about the consequences of running in the halls. Okay. So the idea is to put your compassion first, to think first about what's the kind response here? What's the caring way to be? Finally, when it comes to becoming more accepting of others, make an effort to be less or even not at all controlling of them. This can be a toughie, especially when the person you're trying to be accepting of is your child. Believe me, I'm a parent. I get it. But in order to be truly accepting of others, we must take them as they are. And that means coming to terms with the fact that they aren't always going to make decisions we agree with. And we need to be okay with that. It's part of acceptance. It's part of that unconditional love that I mentioned earlier. Something to keep in mind is that acceptance is a choice. We can either choose to accept people as they are or not. While the tools I mentioned can help us accept others, the choice is ultimately our own. Again, something we should never accept is harm from others. However, we can signal to them that we would like to accept them, but we can't accept them harming us. Or we might accept everything about them other than the harmful thing. It might be something of a mixed signal you're giving them, but it also might be the thing that gets the harm to stop. You might say something to them like, I would like to have a relationship with you, but I can't accept that one harmful thing you do. Stop doing that, and we can continue our relationship. Keep doing it, and I'm afraid I will need to end our relationship or distance myself from you in some way or build certain boundaries between us, right? So it's important to, again, not accept harm and look for ways to manage what's happening so that the harm stops or you get away from the harm. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain here. You have to distance yourself from harm. You deserve to distance yourself from harm. Life is too short. Essentially, the same tools can be used to accept others as we go further and further out in the circles of acceptance. Something I keep in mind to help me be more accepting of all kinds of people is to remember that we are all human beings. Even people I don't know and have never met are just as equally human as I am. They too have a complete set of emotions. They have their own desires, wishes, hopes, and dreams just like me. So part of allowing people to be themselves is to simply say, we're all human beings. We're all different, to each their own, right? Um, you know, if if you really want to be accepting of others, it's important to understand that each and every person just, you know, needs a lot of the same things that we do. They want to live their best lives. They want to be loved. They want to love and be loved, right? These things are pretty universal. So remember, we're all human. That pretty much sums up the topic of acceptance. Have I missed anything? Is there anything that you do that helps you be accepting of yourself or others that I've missed? If so, please do reach out and let me know. Thanks. This brings us to the end of this episode of It Matters How We Treat One Another. Please subscribe to keep up with all our episodes, and you can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/It Matters Patrons. That's patreon.com/It Matters Patrons. There you can find the takeaway for each episode of the show, which is a quick breakdown of pro tips from the episode. You can also support us by shopping our Etsy store at etsy.com/shop/It Matters merch. There are links in the description. Before I close, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the World Food Program. Did you know that the United Nations World Food Program fed over 124 million people last year? That's amazing, right? But the need continues. If you're looking for a worthy cause to donate to, then visit WFP.org and give to the World Food Program. That's WFP.org. They are not supporters of this show, but they're simply a cause that I truly believe in and really want to encourage people to donate to, because combating hunger is so vitally important. Your quote of the week is, quote, acceptance is not love. You love a person because he, she, or they have lovable traits, but you accept everyone just because they're alive and human. That is from psychologist Albert Ellis. And remember, treat everyone with the core four values of kindness, respect, empathy, and compassion, and try for love and acceptance whenever possible. Be well, and much love to you all.